Nigeria's call obey. To see the Nigeria of our dreams emerge, there is an urgent need to return to the values that makes us a great nation. Drawing inspiration from the national anthem, this book titled Nigeria's Call Obey by Adeniyi Adekunle analyzes our anthem and enumerates the values contained in the anthem as values that make great. Our national anthem contains a common hope, a singular objective, and a compelling aspiration for our future. If we all individually and collectively respond to the message in the national anthem, we would have a very good chance at creating the new Nigeria we so desire.
Now, the way God created us, we relate on different levels. We don't just relate with human beings, and that's one level of relationship. Our relationship with human beings, one level of relationships. We also relate with God. We relate with the spiritual plane. We relate with God, relation with God as Father of all spirits, and that's another level of relationships. And we also relate with the material environment of our world. Our world is screaming today. People complain about the ozone layer. They complain about the warming effect of the earth and the rising ocean level and all that, because what they've said is this: we have not learned to relate very well with our physical environment. So there's a relationship with God, there's a relationship with our fellow men, and there's also the relationship with our material world around us. Now let's look at our relationship with one another in closer detail. A few months ago, I watched a movie, lovely documentary. It was titled The Men That Built America. And they talked about a man called Vanderbilt, who was responsible for the railroad in America. They talked about Rockefeller, who was for the oil distribution in America. They spoke about J.P. Morgan and a number of them. And the life of Rockefeller was quite interesting. Rockefeller is said to be the first American billionaire. In fact, they said at a point in time, Rockefeller's wealth was, his personal wealth was 1% of the whole of the United States GDP. And he said that Rockefeller's wealth in today's currency would be about $600 billion. You know, that's bigger than Bill Gates and Warren Buffett put together. And as rich as that man was, some things he understood, and I'll read a quote from John D. Rockefeller to you. He said, "The ability to deal with people is a purchasable commodity as sugar or coffee, and I will pay more for that ability than for any other thing under the sun." Now I'll read that again. John D. Rockefeller said, "The ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee." He said, "And I will pay more for that ability than for any other ability under the sun." Now, is somebody worth listening to? If that man can make the amount of wealth he made, in fact, his foundation is still, blessing the world and contributing to mankind till today. He said, "I will pay." Number one, he said the ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar and coffee. What was he trying to say? He says, even though we call relationship, our ability to relate with people as something intangible, you can't hold it. This is my tablet, I can hold my tablet. I can't hold my ability to relate with people, it's intangible. But what Rockefeller is saying is this, it's as real as coffee, is as real as sugar. And he said in his own experience, he will pay more for that ability than for any ability in the world. That means your ability to relate properly, your strength in relationship actually has commercial value. It can increase your salary, it can increase your benefits, it can increase what comes to you in life. So the question is this: how are you using that ability? Jesus said it, I'm going to read it. This is what Jesus himself said, and you should know. John chapter 2, verse 24 and 25. Talking about Jesus, it says, "But Jesus did not trust them because he knew human nature. No one needed to tell him what mankind was really like." I'll read again. "But Jesus did not trust them because he knew human nature. No one needed to tell him what mankind was really like." Jesus, the Son of God, God in the flesh, knew human beings, knew how to relate with human beings. And the Bible says he did not need anyone to teach him. That means he studied people. The reason he was able to deal with people was because he had learned to study them. We can trade in the spiritual realm and say, oh, he got to know because God gave it to him. No, he learned how to deal with people. He learned how to study people. No two people are the same. God created all of us unique. So if you are going to win with people, you are going to work effectively with people. If you are going to learn how to manage people, you must study people. You must learn how to take time and observe people. Remember, Rockefeller said he will pay for that skill. If someone should pay you for your skill in handling people today, what will it worth? What will it be worth? $100, 100 naira, 100 naira, 50 naira. What will it be worth? Your ability to relate with people. How much will it be worth? If they give you a company of 10 people, how will you be able to manage them? How will you be able to deal with them? Understand that your ability to deal with people has material value. We'll take a break now. We'll go further into this when we come back. Thank you.
Experience God's life, light, and love as you join our church family this Sunday at the Helpers House, venue, Koti Event Center, 171 Bagada Oworonshoki Expressway, beside EcoBank, opposite UPS, First Federal Bus Stop, Bagada, Lagos. Time 9:30 a.m.
Welcome back. Now, I grew up believing that you need to treat everybody the same. I grew up believing that everybody, we're all equal, which is true, and that partiality is treating people differently. That if you treated one person in a certain way, I treated the other person in a certain way, you're not being fair. But the truth is this, it's not realistic. That life puts people in classes and we treat people differently. And that is what happens when you have learned to study people. Now look at Jesus. The Bible says that Jesus will call the crowd and he will speak to them. He will tell them things. He will tell them parables and all that. And they'll be asking questions. They will not understand, and Jesus will do nothing about interpreting to them. Then he will call his disciples aside, and the Bible says he will begin to explain the parables to his disciples. Why did he do that? Why didn't he share with everybody? Because he had learned to qualify people. He had studied people enough to understand those who were interested in what he was doing, and he qualified them based on that. At a point, the Bible says that in Luke chapter 10, he sent 70 people out. At another point, the Bible tells us that he had 12 people. After that 12, he had 3 people. And he also had one person who was Peter. How was Jesus able to classify people? Who were the 70? Who were the 12? Who were the 3? The Bible says he will leave the 12 and he go out with Peter, James, and John. Then in some places, he will call Peter alone. It was because he had studied his relationships enough to know how to classify them. If you would thrive through relationships, like Rockefeller said, you must learn how to study people. You must understand that not everybody in your life demands the same level of investment. You must understand that not every relationship in your life demands the same level of attention. You have 24 hours in a day. You cannot give 24 hours to everybody. You must segment your time. You must apportion your time. And the way you do that with respect to relationships is to understand how to classify people in different groups, to understand the value each person puts in each relationship and give them the same value when it comes to you. If you don't do that, you treat everybody the same and you get nothing out of your relationship, you get nothing out of the things that are important to you. Jesus put it this way in Matthew chapter 7. He said, do not cast your pearls before swines or give precious things to dogs. He said, because they will trample on it, they will treat it like something invaluable, and they will turn against you. Now, he wasn't talking about pigs. He wasn't talking about dogs. He was talking about people. He was saying that some things in your life are not necessarily open to some certain people. That people who do not value the information you give, people who do not value their access to you, don't give everything to them. Qualify your relationships. You must understand that. And that was what Rockefeller was talking about. He said, listen, he will pay more for the ability to deal with people. How do you deal with people? If you do not study people, you will not know how to deal with them. If you do not study people, if you don't spend time with people, you will not know what to give to them and what not to give to them. Jesus, the Bible says, knew what was in man, and he knew what to commit to people, and he knew what not to commit to people. How are you handling the relationships in your life? How are you, which relationships are the most important relationships in your life? So many of us have given different times to different things, and we've sacrificed the most important relationships in our lives. I heard a story from the one-time CEO of Pepsi Cola, and he said, living life or working is like juggling balls. He said, and what he's realized in life is this, that some balls are made of rubber and some balls are made of glass. That when you are juggling those balls, some balls, if they drop, they can bounce back up and you can pick them up. He said, but some balls, when they drop, they are made of glass and they are shattered for life. And one of those balls, he said, are made of glass are relationships. That if you do not manage the relationships in your life very well, the relationship with your families, the relationship with your loved one, once it's broken, it's shattered, and there is nothing you can do about it. So the question again is this: in juggling these things in your life, in managing the many things in your life, because we are busy, we are involved with so many things, how are you managing the ball of relationship? How are you juggling it to ensure it doesn't drop? How are you how are you managing it to ensure it's not shattered? Jesus, remember, knew men, and he knew what was a man and did not commit himself. You must learn to be like Jesus. You must study human beings. You must invest in them, know what is in them, and ensure that you maximize them to move your life forward. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll be back on the same station, same time. God bless you.